Hi everyone, this is Zach Rosa with ECSIQ. I'm really excited about today's presentation. Today we're going to be talking about the 10 toughest customer service interview questions, and then we're going to go ahead and analyze why that question is being asked. Following that, we're going to look at an example of a correct answer. The first interview question that we're going to cover is, what do you think about the motto, "The customer is always right"? So let's go over some analysis. This question requires that you articulate a tricky paradox of customer service, and that paradox is attitude versus reality. Regarding attitude, an exceptional customer service representative always addresses the customer with utmost respect and operates with the attitude that the customer is right. The customer service representative may never allow condescension or mockery to creep into their attitude, no matter how ridiculous the customer's request may be. In attitude, the customer is always right. But now let's talk about reality. The customer does not override principles of ethics, company protocol, and guidelines, or legal statuses. For example, if a customer demands violate the company's ethical guidelines, the customer service representative must not fulfill the request. The easiest way to simplify this paradox is by accurately defining your ultimate responsibility as a customer service representative, which is to ensure accountability. In other words, ensure that ethics and legal guidelines are upheld. The customer service representative must make every effort to achieve accountability with the highest degree of professionalism and go the extra mile to arrive at customer satisfaction. Even so, the reality is that some people may refuse to let the customer service representative help them and do everything they can to remain unsavory. In this context of reality, the customer is not always right. So now let's go over a potential answer to the question, what do you think about the motto, "The customer is always right"? Here's the answer. Quote, "I believe that the exceptional customer service representative will always address the customer with utmost respect, operating with the attitude that the customer is always right. That being said, the customer does not override principles of ethics, company protocol, or legal status. So if the customer's demands violates one of these three areas, then the customer service representative cannot fulfill their request. The bottom line is that customer service representatives must make every effort to achieve company accountability and ethics and protocol and the law while personally going the extra mile to arrive at customer satisfaction." End quote. Now let's go on to question 2. Question 2 is, tell me about yourself. Often posed at the beginning of an interview, this question sets the stage for your interview as a whole. Because of this, you must script and practice your answer to this question. When crafting your answer, keep in mind that what the interview really wants to know about you is why you are the best individual to represent the company. In other words, to address this underlying question, make a list of your 5 greatest strengths pertinent to the job. Strengths that you may want to consider including that relate to the skills valued in customer service representatives are teamwork skills, conflict resolution skills, and active listening skills. Once you have compiled a list of your 5 greatest strengths pertinent to the job at hand, make a list of your top present, past, and future job experiences. Since your potential employer already has your resume in their hands, our objective is to script your answer in a story-like manner that highlights your personality, as well as your strengths and experiences. To do this, select one brief story to weave into your response. Now let's look at the sample answer. So here's the answer to the question, tell me about yourself. I'm currently a retail manager at Smith, where I've gained valuable experience learning how to handle conflict resolution and lead team members. In the past, I worked as a cashier at H Groceries, where I engaged in day-to-day interactions with customers. One day, when I was working as a cashier, I had the opportunity to resolve a customer conflict while my manager was busy helping someone else. In that brief interaction, I was able to turn a very disgruntled customer into a highly satisfied customer who returned regularly and often made a point of requesting my assistance. This experience taught me that my greatest strengths, such as active listening skills, shine brightest in conflict resolution scenarios. While I love managing a dynamic team in my current position, I have come to realize that what I love most is face-to-face interaction with customers. So that's why I'm excited about this opportunity to work with Metro X." End quote. Question 3 is, give me an example of a time when you failed to adequately address a customer's needs and or lost the customer. All right, so let's go over the analysis to this seemingly very difficult question. This question can sound like an invitation to failure. In a sense, the interviewer is presenting you with a platform from which to broadcast your worst experience in the industry. However, what your answer to this question should reveal is that you have learned valuable lessons from past failures. Remember, every individual will encounter failure on the job at some point in their life. Momentary mistakes are irrelevant. What the interviewer really wants to know is if you can learn from your mistakes quickly and effectively. In order to answer this question, you should first identify a time you failed to adequately address a customer's needs and or lost the customer. The second thing you want to do is list one thing you did well in the course of that interaction. And the third thing you want to do is list your greatest mistake in that interaction. Finally, what you want to do is list 3 things you learned from your mistake in the course of that interaction. So remember, when you are relating your story, the greatest emphasis should be placed on what you learned from the failure rather than on the failure itself. Your explanation of the failure should be brief and businesslike. Don't infuse the story with any emotion or drama. If you do not have any experience in the customer service industry, identify an example from your past experience that includes transferable lessons. All right, so let's look at an example of a good answer to this question. And again, the question is, give me an example of a time when you failed to adequately address a customer's needs and or lost the customer. Quote, "I learned the importance of active listening when a customer approached me with a complaint at Smith. I was in the middle of a project, so I connected the customer with a team member. I knew that the team member was new, but I assumed that they could handle the situation. In the end, however, I personally spent twice as long working with the customer. My mistake in this situation was in delegating a task to someone who was ill-equipped to handle it. There are 3 things that I learned from this scenario. 1, initial interaction with the customer is key. I now always actively listen to the customer's explanation of their situation before redirecting them. 2, the team leader must always assume responsibility for equipping their team members and setting them up for success. I now never delegate a difficult task unless I am certain that the team member is equipped to handle it. And 3, I learned that mistakes can be repaired. Although the resolution was delayed, I did not lose the customer." Okay, so let's move on to question 4. How do you tell your boss that you don't agree with something? Now for analysis, while it sounds like a gotcha question, this question is simply seeking to identify if you, 1, know how to make an honest appeal, 2, will submit to authority, and 3, proactively determine plans of action. There are 3 answers that the interviewer does not want to hear in response to this question. First, I never tell my boss that I don't agree with something. Second, I just tell my boss what I think. And third, I don't know. In order to ace this question, you must know how to make an appeal, be willing to submit to authority, and present a clear plan of action. Here is the list of criteria that you should include in your response. First, the issue of contention must not be based on personal emotions. The issue must be a matter of character and values and or directly affect the company or the company's employees. Secondly, always speak in private. You should never ever disrespect your boss's authority by discussing your disagreement in public. Third, disagreements must always be combined with commitment. You should think to yourself, if at the end of our discussion we still disagree, I will get on board with my boss's plan. I can disagree, but I still can commit. And fourth, you want to offer alternatives. If I have not dedicated thought to alternative propositions, then I am not in a position to disagree. And fifth, communicate respectfully. Disagreements must be kept strictly professional. So let's look at a potential answer to this question. If there is an area of disagreement between me and my boss, I have 5 criteria that I am committed to upholding in my discussion with him or her. First, the issue of contention must not be based on personal emotions. The issue must be a matter of character and values and/or directly affect the company or the company's employees. Second, always speak in private. I will never disrespect my boss's authority by discussing my disagreements in public. Third, disagreement must always be combined with commitment. If at the end of our discussion we still disagree, I will get on board with my boss's plan. I can disagree and commit. 4, offer alternatives. If I have not dedicated thought to an alternate position, then I am not in a position to disagree. 5, communicate respectfully. Disagreements must be kept strictly professional and respectful. End quote. So that's a good answer to the question. You realize in that answer, I used the 5 criteria that I mentioned earlier. Those are extremely important 5 criteria. Question 5 is, what is your greatest weakness? So let's go over the analysis to this question. When answering this question, keep 3 principles in mind: honesty, impact, and improvability. Your answer should be honest. Don't make up a weakness. Your weakness should be acceptable for the job at hand. Don't say that you are poor at handling conflict when applying for a customer service job. Your weakness should be improvable. Demonstrate that you already are working on improving in your area of weakness. Your response to this question is not the place of a humble brag, so don't make up an irrelevant weakness in an attempt to look superhuman. Your response to this question is also not the place to reveal your greatest personal difficulty in customer service. If your greatest overall weakness is a non-negotiable skill for customer service, then you need to implement an aggressive personal development strategy before your interview. During your interview, however, you should focus on presenting a weakness that is generally acceptable in the customer service arena. A great answer to this question, and again, the question is, what is your greatest weakness, would be, quote, sometimes I can be too direct when I provide feedback to my team members. Recently, I read the book How to Win Friends and Influence People, which really taught me a lot about how to provide feedback without damaging the relationship. Last month, I practiced the methods outlined in How to Win Friends and Influence People when speaking with a team member and received a very positive response from them. End quote. All right, well, this concludes part 1 of the top 10 toughest interview questions. Check out part 2 for the next 5.